Daryl, I love your friend there in your profile picture. Super cute.
Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
She's
Who is
just
that?
she's
What is
just
her
a
name?
big baby. Benjalina.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you.
Her eyes are so pretty.
Oh yeah. She knows it. She gets away with it.
I have a dog and she knows too.
Yeah.
She's learned very well over the past year and a half how to like work the sad puppy dog eye thing. So
They know how to pull the strings
they really do. They're so much smarter than people give them credit for.
and get away with a lot.
Absolutely. Yes. All right, we have a few minutes. I'll let you all know since you're already here. My colleague Chris, who is giving this session, had a family emergency and he had to step away just a few minutes ago. So I am stepping in for him. I will do this, try to do this justice here. His presentation, we are also going to put, once I have editing rights in the course, we're going to put an activity in there, feedback activity, where you can give us our name and your email. And Chris is actually going to record the whole presentation he would have given, and we'll email that out. So if there's anything that I miss, he can send that to you in the recording. And I'll announce that again at the beginning. But since we have probably 5 minutes, if you all want to grab a cup of coffee or get up and stretch, please feel free. I'll be here hanging out until it's time to start. Hey, Karen. Got Lindsay here, Pam.
Hello.
Got a good group coming in here. Hey, Maddie, I'm glad you're here already.
Hi, Amy.
Oh, I did get my coffee, so hopefully I'll be a little better. I'll be okay for this one.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to do our best in Chris's place.
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear, I announced it with the first couple people came in, and I'll say it again right before we start as people come in. Our colleague Chris Pratt was set to deliver this particular session. He had a family emergency just moments ago and had to step away. So I've stepped in. This is an area that's not necessarily my area of expertise. I will do my best to do his presentation justice, but what you're going to find is we're going to add a feedback activity into the course up near the top, where you can leave us your name and your email address if you'd like Chris to send you a recorded version of this. So he is, once he gets back in the office, going to record this whole session that he would have given. And we are very happy.
Including a lot of live demo.
Yep, he'll do a live demo through his part, which is the part that you will not see me do as a live demo. But Chris will do all of that, and he'll send you the full presentation that he would have done. But while I'm here, we're going to introduce you to kind of what the topic is and give you some information on that. Hey, Ryan, good morning. Ryan's still connecting to audio. Morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
Did you get our email about the speaker change?
Maybe.
All right.
Chris
do
had
my-
a family emergency, so Amy is going to do the best she can. But if you, I don't know if you've added us as instructors on the course yet, but if you could, we'll kind of get people a place where they can submit their information to get Chris's full demo when he's able to do that and record it, send it out.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and get that set up for you. All right, Amy and Madison, you're both now presenters in that course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll add a lot of info there for everybody after this presentation wraps up, including a lot of, not only a place where you can submit your email, but a lot of links to resources about what we're talking about that we'll dive into more detail here.
All right, everyone. So we are right at the top of the hour. Let's get started. I'll do my little explanation here again. My name is Amy Tessitore. I'm the Senior Manager of Education and Engagement for OpenLMS. Our colleague, Chris Pratt, was set to give this presentation this morning, and a very short time ago, he had a family emergency and had to leave. So we figured I would step in. It's early in the morning here, so if I don't quite look put together, please just excuse that. I was up late mountain mooting. So it was an early start for me today. This is a topic that I can give you a great overview about, but this is not something I'll be able to go as in depth as Chris did or would have. However, we're going to put a feedback activity in the actual course area on the MtMoot site. So if you go in there and you leave us your first and last name and your preferred email address, when Chris is back in the office, he's going to record what would have been his full session, including more in-depth explanations of what everything is. And he's also going to do a live demo in that session as well. So if you'd like to have all of that after this, please do put your name and email in the feedback activity we'll create, and we'll make sure that you get an email of that recording as soon as it's available. I am going to, hold on, share out my screen. Oh, let me do this other thing first. There we go. All right. So I'll just wait a second. That should be sharing now. All right. So Chris was going to talk today, and what we're going to talk a little bit about is how do you make Moodle work for you using automations? And so how do we use the power of Moodle to make our lives easier? We often hear ourselves talk about work smarter, not harder, and this is a great example of that. Wrong screen. There we go. I'm going to probably fast forward too many. There we go. So Chris had a slide here about what is OpenLMS. That's where we work. Madison Zimmerman is on the call with me today. We are both from OpenLMS. We are an open source LMS hosting and service and support company, and that's what we do. We also have a large training academy where we offer training and education offerings for people in all areas of using Moodle and online teaching and things like that. We also develop some integrations. So we have integrations for things like getting your student information system to speak to your Moodle site and platform so that you, again, can make things happen more easily. And we have been working very hard over the past like 6 to 9 months developing new open source code. So that's a big part of what we've been doing as well. And if you've attended some of our other sessions, you've probably seen that. All right, so the first slide Chris wanted to talk about is cohort population. So if you've been using Moodle for a while, or if you're brand new to Moodle, you may or may not have heard about cohorts. So cohorts are really like kind of a more powerful group, and they can be set up at the site level. And so when we talk about cohorts, there's a lot that we can do with those. We can use cohorts. We can assign people to cohorts through a CSV upload, but we can also assign people into cohorts based off of things in their profile field. So I might say that I want everyone from a certain location to be in one cohort, right? So now I'm saying I want everyone, let's see, in Topeka, because they're talking about Ed in Topeka right now in the chat. So maybe I say everyone in that region is going to be in this cohort, or everyone who has this specific value in their profile field is going into cohort A. So when we do this, we can then enroll people in courses based on cohort. Now, this means it ends up being a one-click when I'm doing cohort enrollment. That is an enrollment method that we can use in courses. We can set that up. And when we do that, it's a one-click. We're not individually enrolling people in courses. So you might be thinking like, well, why would I ever use cohort enrollment? So let's say that you have some training courses on your site and you have some that are geared toward your learners and some that are geared toward your teachers or facilitators, and you want an easy way to put people where they belong. I can have a profile field that indicates what someone's role is on my site. So whether they're a student or they're a teacher facilitator. And then when I go into those courses, I can say, I want to, well, prior to we get to the courses. So I've got that profile field. If you have teacher in the profile field, you go to the teacher cohort. Then I can say this cohort needs to be enrolled in all my training courses that are relevant to teachers only. This makes it a lot easier to get people to where they need to be, particularly if you're not linking up to something like a student information system where you're automating enrollments that way. So cohort population can be very powerful in helping you to allocate people to different cohorts and enroll them places. Chris has two different plugins here from the Moodle plugin database on this particular slide. And that first one is the local profile cohort. And so that's that profile field based cohort membership that I was talking about. This is a great plugin. And if you go over to the plugin database, what you're going to notice is that it's maintained by Ulm University. They have a great track record of maintaining plugins and keeping them up to date. There's also 1,100 sites using this. So it's a good indicator that this is something that's pretty powerful and it works really well. And so basically that's where you're pulling that piece from the profile field to populate people into a cohort. The next plugin that Chris has listed here is that local LDAP plugin. And that's an LDAP syncing script. And so what that does is it synchronizes those Moodle cohorts against your LDAP directory by either using group memberships or attribute values. And this creates this sync between the two systems. So between your LDAP and between your Moodle cohorts. For that plugin, the one thing you have to know is that it does require that you either have CAS or LDAP enabled as an authentication method on your site. And it officially supports Open LDAP and Active Directory. So if you have people in Active Directory and you've got these attributes set up, now you can use this script to make your Active Directory and your Moodle site sync together to fill those cohorts. Then you can go ahead and you're continuing on and enrolling people into things based on their cohorts. All right, auto groups, skipped over that one. So why would you want to do auto groups? Auto groups are fantastic. We've talked a little bit about grouping ever since we, like in all of the different sessions I've been in, we've been talking about where would we use groups? How are we going to use that? In courses, there are lots of reasons to use groups. Again, I may be personalizing some of that learning for people based on groups that they're in. So being able to auto-enroll people in groups is super helpful. And I'm trying to think if it was Dylan or not, but it was in one of my sessions. Someone asked, how do I get people into these groups? So auto group is one way to do that. Auto group is a plugin and it automatically assigns enrolled users in a course into groups, and that is dependent upon information in their user profile field. So now again, I can enter something in that user profile field and assign people to a group at the course level, and I can do that throughout the site. This can be extremely helpful when I have learners who are receiving accommodation. So someone has a disability, they're receiving time and a half on tests. What is the easy way to put them into a group so that when I'm creating tests or quizzes or assignments, I'm able to very easily have folks who need extended time in this group and then use a group override to grant them that extra time. Auto group is helpful because we can put something in a profile field that helps to allocate that user over to a group. Again, that is a plugin. You can find that in the Moodle plugin database. The thing to know about this plugin too is that it does create, update, and it will also delete groups automatically to match the users in your course. So if someone drops your course and they're no longer in there and their profile, so they were the only person with those attributes in their profile field, this plugin will automatically delete those groups from your course so they're not still there. So it's more real time in the sense that it will only update groups that are relative to your individual courses. It can also monitor manual group setting changes. So if you're in your courses and you're in the participants page and you're doing some manual changes in the groups, this plugin will also monitor that for you as well. Go to the next slide here. Next, we talk about auto enroll. So, when we talk about enrolling people, there's lots of ways to enroll people into courses. You can do that manually, where you're individually adding those people to the course. You can upload a CSV file where you're appending their actual user profile to put them in courses, or you can use the auto enroll plugin. Again, you can find this one right in the Moodle plugin database. And it adds that functionality to automatically enroll users into a course. And that can happen either as they log into the site or as they access the course. So there are different ways that you can auto enroll them. And this plugin was originally created for use on courses where we wanted all users to be able to access them. Like if I have a, student orientation or some sort of like course that people have to take that's required. We were seeing a lot of these in colleges where people have to offer a sexual harassment course or an alcohol awareness course, and everyone on the site really needs to be enrolled in this. Using the auto enroll plugin means that when people log in or click on the course, they can automatically be enrolled. I, as the administrator, don't have to do anything. They just automatically end up there. But you can also configure this plugin for more advanced purposes as well. So you can send people to reserved access courses, so courses that only some people are supposed to go to. You can filter so that you can say students have to go to this version of a course. People who have, who are teachers have to go to this other course. So there's a lot of versatility in this particular plugin. I'm going to hop over to the chat where I see a question coming in. Oh, Melanie says, you think I'm your new best friend. Oh, Melanie, thank you. So I'm going to tell you that I ripped right through that because Chris was going to do a live demo here. So obviously we're going to be pretty short as far as our presentation goes today. And what's going to happen next? Feel free to stick around and hang out. I will stay in this room for as long as you like. So if you have any general questions about Moodle functionality or anything, I'm here to help answer them. I can answer some questions about this. I'll be honest, this is not my area of expertise, so I have done the best I can. But I will tell you that these 4 different plugins in the Moodle plugin database are really powerful, and they can make it much easier for you to manage your users and allocate them to courses and things. And I see Jeremy, my colleague, not only is on the call, but he just put his camera on, which means he has more to add to this.
Well, I'll admit I just got here because I was in a different meeting and didn't see that Chris was having to deal with a family emergency. So I am just jumping in, but I am happy to help answer questions because I do know something about at least some of the plugins that were featured. So I have a lot of experience with the auto groups and auto enrollment plugin. And actually have been really excited about a new version of the auto enrollment that just came out almost 2 months ago now. I guess it was in May. So if people do have questions, happy to try and talk about them. And I can try and pull up potentially some examples in the background, depending on what questions people have.
So Jeremy, what is it that makes you excited about the newest release of that plugin? What is different there this time compared to previous versions?
So one of the things that they just did that I really like is adapted the user interface to look more like the restrict access that everyone's kind of used to in setting up the activity restrictions. So if you previously used its own custom interface, which worked really well, I was always pretty happy with it, but the new version actually pulls an interface that looks basically identical to the restrict access interface in setting up modules, and allows you to do combination sets of the restrictions, where previously you might be able to set it up to be able to do something similar. It wasn't as easy to build something that had nested restrictions, but now the newest version of the plugin allows you to do that.
Awesome. So that becomes a little bit more like the filtering option that I kind of mentioned there at the end, where you have more versatility and more ways to filter the enrollments the way that works for you. And since I think hopefully most of us are familiar with that restrict access piece in courses, this should make it a little bit easier. When things are more consistent, those interfaces are more consistent across the site, just makes it a little bit easier to kind of jump in and start using them. And if you have
For-
not used restrict access, I strongly advise it. I love it. Go ahead, Melanie.
I, for one, would love to see a demo of the auto enroll,
Let's
if
see
you're willing to do it.
if Jeremy can bring one up, we'll do it.
Looking
If
right
not-
now for a site that I can demo from, so give me just a moment. I don't know
Yeah.
where Chris was going to do this at.
He was going to do it in his sandbox site, which
yeah.
is how we ended up kind of stuck, where I was like, Chris, I don't have your sandbox site. But if we aren't able to live demo that here, Chris is going to still do a full live demo. Well, it'll be recorded, but he'll do a full demo in the video that he's going to post that we're going to send out to you, where you'll be able to see that live demo on his site. But Jeremy may be able to find one there as well.
And the questionnaire to fill out to get that demo is now live on the course page, as well as links to everything that were in this presentation. Yeah,
There you go,
Megan,
Megan.
if you
She
could
just
fill
answered
out-
that. Yep.
Yeah, if you could fill that out just to make sure, I don't want to just take your information from the site and email you. I want to make sure you've given me permission to send you an email with that demo recording or Chris. So if you could just fill out that questionnaire, that would be wonderful. We did get a question here from Kent about, did you address this one, Amy? If you have a bunch of
One-time
One-
users that need access to a certification test on Moodle and they need to be enrolled, is it best to have them set up accounts or have the trainer do it beforehand? So that's going to depend on really your preference. So you could definitely set them up ahead of time, or correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, you can set it up where people come in, they basically have like almost like a guest access to the site, and they create their account as they come to the site and log in the first time. I encourage people to create the accounts ahead of time, in part because if you want to set up site policies or things like that, really be able to look at the logs for what people are doing, that's a little more helpful. It also helps you to work out any problems with login prior to that certification test. So having all of those accounts created means everyone can go in, they can test, they can get in there. You can have them watch a little video tutorial on how to take the certification test, because if they're a one-time user, they may not be familiar enough with that. So in that type of situation, I really strongly encourage creating those accounts ahead of time. Pretty easy though. You can do that in a CSV file. So as people are registering with you, if you have the ability to output from your registration into a CSV, you can then upload that CSV and create all those accounts. All right, we're going to turn that right over to Jeremy, who now has this brought up for you.
Yeah, I found somewhere where I have the latest version. So this site also actually has a couple other automation options for enrollments that we can maybe also talk about briefly. The other piece, kind of to your question, just since we were on the topic already, Kent, was that if you know who needs to take that certification, it's one of those spots where I typically would recommend maybe even not using something like auto enroll. If they're known people, you have their name and their email address, doing something like a flat file upload, you can do that both to create the user and enroll them all in one step. And especially for one-offs, I sometimes find that's easier. You keep it simple, you've created their access, and you've just put them straight into the course you need them in.
Jeremy?
Yep.
Okay, so my situation, not really unique, but I have 200 trainers across the state of Montana that are volunteer trainers, and they do a 3-hour training on certification of people that need alcohol certification. And so they put on these classes, and I'm trying to move them on Moodle. So I've set my quiz and my testing on Moodle, and the trainers though aren't the most technologically advanced. I mean, a lot of them are rural, and they advertise for a class and then people show up. And I was wondering if there is a quick way that people, because right now the way we do it, the trainees go out and they have to set up an account, and then the teacher has to get on and they have to approve the account, and then the trainee has to sign back into account, and then they've assigned the quiz and they can take the quiz. It's like a 3-step process. And I lose half the people at step 2. And I was wondering if anybody had a best practice or a way to make this a little easier for my maybe people who only train twice a year. And so they're learning it every single time they're trying to do it again, if that makes sense.
Yep. Are they all taking it in one shared course, or does each trainer have their own course?
Nope, I've created the course and they all deliver the course with their own personality and everything. And then at the end, they have to take the test that I created.
Okay. If there is really only one course, then yes, maybe the auto enroll is something to set up and just have it set. So one of the options that you have, so let me show the auto enroll, is when you're setting it up, the default typically, I think this is site configurable, is that the user gets enrolled when they attempt to access the course. But you have another option, logging into the site. And actually, this is one of the enhancements they just made. It used to be that when someone logged in, and the enroll was when they were logging into the site, because of the speed at which the dashboard is designed to load, that would actually load before their enrollment got processed. But they've actually added something so that it basically does a quick refresh of the dashboard as this enrollment action happens. So now, instead of having to hit refresh to be able to see the course, it actually auto reloads in the background so that they immediately see any of the courses that they get enrolled into. So if all the users that get accounts created need to just end up in this site, if you're having the accounts getting approved, then once they're approved and they go to log in again, the course will just be waiting for them and they can just jump straight to taking the certification exam, potentially, if that's what you wanted to do.
So logging into the site means for the first time or logging in, period?
Period.
Okay.
So how did they get set up, Jeremy? Sorry, Melanie. So when you have Bob or Jill coming into your class and they come in and they have to, the quiz is going to be on Moodle. Can you take me from that person coming in with their little smartphone going, what do I do? Take me to where they take my quiz through this, if you could, Jeremy.
I can't do the whole thing just because
Just verbally.
not set up for demoing.
Just verbally, how you would see it happening.
Right. So what I would do, especially if that's why I was asking if it's a single course, because then what you can just do is set it up so that anytime anyone ever logs in, the first thing that happens to them is they get enrolled in this course. So if it sounds like because you said that the accounts need approved, that you're using the account creation with approval.
We don't have to. That's the way I've got it right now. I could change that if you would. I guess I'm asking you and everybody else what the best practice is. It's the only way I knew how to do it when I set it up. But I'm thinking that you guys might be able to eliminate a step for me to kind of ease some of the frustrations that my trainees are feeling.
The advantage of requiring someone to approve the account is that you can potentially prevent people from creating a second account if you want to keep all their completion in one place. My site does not do that. They just log in and voila, they have an account. Yesterday, I found somebody who I swear to God had 5 accounts, and it does not make me happy.
Yep. It is
so
one
that
of
would
the
be
downsides of fully open sites.
right. So Kent, you're making people like get approved is not a bad idea.
Thank you, Melanie. I think you're probably your experience is I'm gonna fall back on that. It just what I'd like to do is have everybody honest and they run into class and they type in their little name and up pops the little quiz and they take it. I get the test. It's all done. But I attended your other session and trying to authenticate users and try to stop cheating. I'm just hoping I don't open the door to what you're worried about with the cheating and then making the course kind of a joke where everybody has all the answers and they take the test before they go to the course,
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why it is useful to either have them have to self-register, but the account gets approved, or potentially just it just depends on the administrative overhead that it's going to create for you. One of the things that I've done before for a parent course in one of my past lives when I was doing mostly working in the social work space. I did that for 11 years. For some of those parent courses, we would have, the course was mostly in person, but then they had just kind of like a quiz that they had to do. The trainer gathered their first name, last name, email address, and they sent it to us. And we uploaded those, and that sent out an email that invited them to an account that we created, and that also enrolled them into the course. So when they logged into the LMS, the only thing that popped up was, this is the exam. It was actually set up as a single activity course so that all they did was click and it immediately took them to the quiz page.
That's exactly what mine has. And then you described exactly what I have right now. And then if they pass the quiz and they get a little certificate mailed to them. But I was hoping that there was a way that the teacher could just enroll them and then they could just, oh, well, I think if you haven't figured out a way to do it and Melanie thinks this is the way I should do it, then maybe I should just do it this way and quit worrying about it.
If you want people to self-register, yes, that's the way to do it, to prevent multiple accounts. But if it's really a problem, you could always do flat file like Jeremy and Amy were talking about.
And
Really,
I don't know what that flat file is yet. So
CSV is super easy.
oh, you mean just put them on an Excel spreadsheet and then upload them that way? Is that a flat file? Okay, I've done that. Okay.
Super easy.
Yep. I didn't know the word flat file. Okay.
Well, I'm actually doing a session on integration options, and it's one of the ones we're going to talk about briefly in like 2 hours. I don't know, something like that. It's on my calendar. It's right after the keynote. So
at 10 a.m. extending Moodle through integration.
Thank you, Maddie.
And Jeremy, that's where you're going to talk about flat file enrollment?
I'm going to talk about it briefly. We're
so
talking
also
about all integration options. So it's one of those that we're gonna touch on.
Yeah, and if you go over to, there was a workshop on the first day of this conference called Moodle for New Users. I actually have a template of what that file is. So if you need a template of that CSV, there's a walkthrough video of exactly how to do it, how to populate the CSV file, and there's a template of that file right in that course. I'm trying to think of where, but it's definitely in there in the users area. So if you look in how to manage users, it'll be in that part of that course.
And you have a ton of options, really. So I love giving an example file. And actually in current versions of Moodle, it has a really simple example file right there on the page that you can download. But then the Moodle docs, as you can see, it can do many, many things. And is a really powerful integration point, especially since 3.10, when they actually added the ability to make this scriptable. So if you're pulling a data source from externally, and that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it in my session, you can actually automate this entire process. But when you're building those hand by hand, the front end process of uploading the file works really well. So when you're building, kind of getting back to this one briefly, one of the things that I really like about the auto enroll is it can do these enrollments both when someone tries to click into the course or when they log into the site, and it can also manage your groups for you, which is really handy. And it can also be, depending on how you set it up, designed to automatically remove someone when they no longer meet any of the criteria you've set up. And also, thanks to some feedback from many people in the community, you can control what happens to their enrollment when they no longer meet that criteria. So I typically recommend setting it up so that, and I think this is something you do have to control at the site level. Oh no, you can control it. No, you don't. You have to control it at the site level. Okay. So I might be able to show that, but I'll have to switch screens. You can set it up so that it will just remove their role and suspend the enrollment so that you can still see them in reporting, or you can set it up that it fully unenrolls them if you want to kind of sort of delete that record entirely. So as you can see, you can set this up and you can do things like contains, which allows you to do things like set it up to be specific to specific domains. So if I wanted to make sure that everyone that got automatically enrolled into this class had an open LMS email address, that's how I would set that up in this particular case. The new thing that I really like is the ability to add restriction sets, which just allows you to do kind of a combo. You used to be able to sort of do this by doing separate enrollment method or copies of this enrollment method. So you could have like 8 auto enrolls to pull this all together. Now you can actually do it just by building a set. So you can say, okay, in this particular set, I'm going to pull the profile field, and I'm going to say that they need to have a department that is equal to solutions. And I'm going to add another restriction that says that they need an email address that contains openlms.net. And you can decide whether it's both of those or any, or exclude these people by moving this into the same framework as the restriction set functionality elsewhere in Moodle. They just made this whole feature much more powerful. So I was really excited when I noticed this in the update earlier this year. Melanie, I think you were the one that was asking if we could show this. Did this kind of hit on a lot of your kind of questions about it? Good.
Yes, this is terrific. Thank you.
And then you can have the groups by the user filter you set above, or you can do separate groups. So if you wanted to only enroll a certain subset, but then divide them into groups by a different criteria, you can do that now. So this plugin went from really nice to super powerful over the last, it's been around for a long time. I know I've been using it since Moodle 3.1, I believe, maybe 3.0. So it's been around for a really long time. And I also like that by its very nature, it allows you to use custom profile fields. And then you can also do things like limit the number of users. So basically say, hey, there's only capacity for 25 people. You're right, a really long time is 1.4. I know.
I remember 1.4.
I didn't start using Moodle until 1.6 or 1.7, but yes. Is there any of the other, I don't remember what all of the plugins were. I know it was auto enroll, auto groups. What else did we highlight?
We talked about cohort population, auto groups, and auto enroll. Those were the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was the local profile cohort and then the local LDAP to sync so that you could populate your cohorts.
Cohorts.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I don't have all of those on this site.
But I think that, the cohort one makes sense, right? So you're pulling that piece from the user profile, a field that's in there, and you're using that to populate your cohorts. I'll also post the links that Chris has in this presentation right into the course so that you can go to the Moodle docs and read more about these specific plugins that we featured here. So you can see like if that's something that might work for your site as well.
They're actually already up there. I'm working in the background.
Maddie is just always a step ahead.
And since we're just talking, hopefully you can all see, I pulled up a different option that is on this site, just since I kind of touched on it. There is also a plugin that allows you to automate enrollment into other courses based on the completion of a different course. So that's what this one does, and it allows you to actually sync the groups between courses. So that's really handy. The name is never what I think it should be. So I will find the link and we will also just go ahead and add this one as well. So it just allows you to decide whether it's enabled, the role to assign, and then you can search for any course that has completion enabled. And then once you've selected that course, you can also decide whether to send a message or not, keep the group or not. And basically, whenever they complete that other course that you've just selected, it'll automatically trigger their enrollment in the next course. And this allows you to create chains of courses that kind of control and gate people's progression through your content. So I particularly like this one with courses that are user-driven, but it does work with blended courses as well. And in fact, I've actually seen some of our clients start to use this where they have a blended course or a face-to-face course that they're managing with something like the face-to-face module. And when that course gets complete, it unlocks a whole library of self-instructional courses for them. Or I've seen it flipped. They have to complete a set of self-instructional courses, and then it unlocks access to an in-person course where they can get some more direct engagement. So a lot of just one of the things in my presentation, I actually call it the superpowers. Plugins are superpowers for your Moodle site. And I'll find the actual link to this plugin right now if someone hasn't already found it for me. I believe it's enroll upon completion, or it says that in one spot, but that's not the actual name of the plugin. So I'll get the actual direct link.
Anyone have any more questions about automation options? Thank you for sharing that link, Jeremy. I'll also put that in the course too. Well, if no one has any other questions, we're still here to talk about anything else, but I will mention that both Jeremy and Amy do have sessions later today that they planned on giving before 45 minutes ago. So Jeremy has one, as we mentioned, on different integrations, and Amy has a session on some kind of design and best practices when you're building out a course. So two great options to catch after the keynote, one at 10 and one at 11, I believe. Yep. So I highly recommend those. Also give a shameless plug for our Open LMS course. We have some cool information over there. But yeah, if anyone has any more questions, we'll be here. But thank you so much for joining us and being with us on this kind of unconventional ride through this course, through this session. But it's always fun.
All right, well, thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate Amy and Jeremy swooping in like the heroes you are and making this session go off. So I'm gonna head out of here and go ahead and get ready for the keynote. The keynote's gonna be at 9 o'clock. We're gonna hear from Martin Dougiamas, the CEO and founder of Moodle. It's got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. So I will see you all in that keynote.
Thank you, Ryan.